Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Designated Pundits. Today, we are previewing LAFC for the 2025 Major League Soccer season. And I'm back. I'm your host, Bob, here with Scott, and our special guest today from Defenders of the Banc. I see his name is JR for the first time. I've only ever known him as Scarf. Thank you so much for being there with us today.
Absolutely, you guys. So great to be back on the show with you guys. Appreciate it.
And we're going to start today's episode the way we start every episode this season, which is tell us your favorite soccer memory from 2024.
Favorite soccer memory. We finally won my favorite soccer trophy, the U.S. Open Cup. I don't care what Don Garber thinks about it. I absolutely love the U.S. Open Cup. Bring it on all year long. It was an incredible memory. Finally being able to hoist that cup was really cool. A disappointing season other than that, I have to be perfectly honest, especially with how it ended with a certain other team. Who you'll be talking to people about later, hoisting MLS Cup, but winning U.S. Open Cup, I would say would be the biggest memory, but also just having Kai Kamara on the squad. He's an incredible dude, just a wonderful human, but winning the Open Cup, having Kai score in that too was cool. I love the Open Cup.
Awesome, great stuff. And as you mentioned, we are meeting with LA Galaxy at 8:30. Guys from Corner of the Galaxy, Josh Gessman, always a great time when they're on. And we're previewing each and every of the 30 now Major League Soccer teams. It's getting a lot, guys. I think when we started, there were 24 in the league. It's getting a little excessive, but we're doing it, and it's one a day for a month. Can't wait to do that. Make sure you go to thedesignatedpundits.com, youtube.com/@thedesignatedpundits, or find us on Twitter, Instagram, your favorite podcast platform. Just search the Designated Pundits. Thank you guys for doing that. Now, today we need to get into LAFC. So let me pull up my graphics here. Oh, there they are. Okay, good. I thought I messed that one up again. LAFC 2025 season preview with Gaskar from Defenders of the Banc podcast. Let's do a quick review of 2024 to see where we stood. 19-7-8 record, first in the Western Conference with 64 goals scored, 43 goals allowed. That's a pretty high goal total and a pretty mediocre defensive total, but it led to a 20-goal differential. Lost 2-1 to Seattle in the conference semifinals. Tell us about the 2024 season.
Yeah, the MLS season up and down for LAFC. And in fact, if you go back to your previous graphic, there was a certain gentleman on there named Olivier Giroud that, if you ask many out there, I'm not saying it's exactly how I feel, but it might be a little bit how I feel. The bringing on Olivier Giroud did not do what we thought it might for our club. In fact, I think that you can tell the story of last season by looking at our club before Olivier Giroud and looking at our club with Olivier Giroud. I thought our playing style changed. Our formation changed a little bit. Our identity really took a hit once we brought in Olivier Giroud, which was a big surprise. We all thought Olivier Giroud would come in and do what we've seen several other good European strikers do, score some goals, find the back of the net, but also make everybody around him better. And it really turned out, in my humble opinion, the exact opposite. He was offside more than he was onside, did not score a memorable goal really throughout the entire MLS season. Did have one for us in a cup final, but I have to be honest, the Olivier Giroud experiment, at least for the 2024 season, failed. And that is the biggest storyline, in my opinion, going into 2025 is how will we be able to recover from the Olivier Giroud experiment not going as well? Will we continue to try to put a square peg in a round hole? Have we made that hole a little more square, or have we made the peg a little more round? I don't know, but it's going to be really interesting to see how this club responds to a full season of expectations with Olivier Giroud on the roster.
Absolutely. LAFC started a little flat, 2 losses, a win, and a draw, I think, in their first 5 matches. But it was really after the July 4th Rose Bowl game against LA Galaxy that this slump started. It was, I think, 5 losses, 3 draws, and a win in the course of 7 matches. And everyone was going to say, are they going to do it? You know, the playoffs are coming. You guys did get a little winning streak before the playoffs came, and that kind of gave you a little boost heading into the final few matches. Of course, Seattle Sounders took care of that in the conference semifinals. But hey, at least you didn't have to go and lose to the Galaxy in the final playoff game. I guess you saved a little bit of face there. Scott?
Yeah, look, we reeled off, a dozen match unbeaten streak right before all of that, too. And I thought that was when we really got things going. And then we started to play Giroud some more, and it kind of bogged down the offense a little bit.
LAFC was an interesting team to me last year because it felt like all season long there was a really, really great team in there somewhere. And they just, despite periods of success, I never felt like that team reached its potential.
Yeah.
And I know you guys won the West too. Like there were, but even still, right? All of that, even still, I felt like this team never reached its potential. It never fired on all cylinders. And look, it's 5th best goal scoring total or goals per match, 5th best in goals conceded per match, whatever. Like 2nd most clean sheets in the league. And here we are being like, yeah, disappointing.
Yeah, you look at the season that Hugo Lloris had, and if he rolls that out again this year, we'll take it, right? Co-led the league, I think, in shutouts. Maybe Christian Klina had 1 more than he did. But either way, an excellent performance. It took him a little bit, right? It took him a little while to get going. Just like you said, our season didn't start out quite so hot. But the way that Hugo played for us on the back line, excellent. You look at the talents that we had. I mean, Denis Bouanga scoring 20 goals again. You look at Matty Bogusz across all competitions. The guy was an absolute beast, 20 goals, 11 assists, played in 48 of our 50 matches. Just the collection of talent that we had, never quite, though, you're right, put it all together out there on the pitch. Things changed, right? We went from a 4-3-3 to a 3-4-3. We went from a Kai Kamara up top to an Olivier Giroud up top to playing neither of them and really opening up and playing a speed game at times. So I don't think we ever really found the best fit for the collection of talent that we had. And unfortunately now after this offseason and what I think is coming down the pipe in the next couple of weeks, I think we're going to have to do it with a completely different collection of talent up front.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at those stats. We're talking just for the Major League Soccer season. Denis Bouanga, 20 goals, 9 assists. Bogusz with 5 goals, 6 assists. Then you had Christian Oliveira, 6 goals, 1 assist. After that, it's really fallen off. Timmy Tillman, 4 goals, 3 assists. And Kai Kamara, 3 goals and 5 assists. That's going to lead us up to one of the questions, which we're going to cover a little later, which is like, who's going to score? Where are we going to find the goals from? But before we do that, Scott, do you have any final thoughts on the contributors here?
No, look, we've addressed the contributors very fully. You see the big drop off. It's obviously, the whole is what you've addressed, Scarf, and Olivier Giroud is not listed on here. So that's a notable omission here. And I think with that, we can take this on to the next one.
Not only is he not there, he's not there, and the cutoff was 3 goals. That's pretty rough.
3 goals, 5 assists.
Right.
He had time to do that. So,
outgoing players. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a season for change for LAFC, a team who I always kind of think of as, kind of a return. They haven't had a lot of rebuilds, and this might be a mini rebuild, a restocking, we might say. Players out, you got 3 forwards, Kai Kamara, Carlos Vela, and Thomas Angel. In the defense, Jesus Murillo and Omar Campos. And in midfield, Ilie Sanchez. I don't know why his name is spelled like that on my graphic, but it was. And to replace them, Jeremy Abobasi, and recently the center back. Didn't you just sign someone there too?
Yeah, Nkosi Tafari
from Dallas.
And I'll be honest, there's some more names on that list that should be there for outgoing. Edward Atuesta, the loan expired, and we said thank you, no thank you. He did not have the impact that we thought he would have coming back for LAFC from Palmeiras, so he is back with Palmeiras. Lewis O'Brien from Nottingham Forest was a game changer for us in the midfield we haven't, at least so far, been able to work out another loan agreement with Nottingham Forest. So Lewis O'Brien is gone. Eric Duenas, who kind of represented the pipeline from the academy. I mean, he was our original U12 all the way up through. He just recently left to the Houston Dynamo, and two massive names that aren't on that list that nothing's been confirmed yet, but it looks like where there's a whole ton of smoke, there's a lot of things going on there, is Matty Bogusz going to Cruz Azul for a massive fee of $9 million, which we can't complain. We signed the guy for $1 million, so we're getting $9 million back.
Yeah.
And it looks like Christian Oliveira, who was on that list of goal scorers, he's kind of fallen in love with trying to get to Nacional in Uruguay. He was in the director's box last week for them. He's made a lot of comments. He's still, as far as I understand, not reported to training yet. So that's a big one. Those are some massive names, but the sky hasn't quite started falling yet, because now we've brought some guys in. That's the biggest thing. You mentioned Nkosi Tafari. We just confirmed Yaya Boa today from Columbus Crew, which is a massive one for us.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Delgado, who wasn't on there as well, who, by the way, talk about a signing that has been polarizing with the LAFC community. Talking about a guy who for the last 3 years was wearing an Herbalife sash, and now he's going to be coming over and wearing black and gold. He's a Southern California native. He's from Glendora, so he should engender a lot of those feels like, all right, hometown kid coming home and playing. But our fan base, I wouldn't even say they're divided. I think that our fan base feels a certain way about it. And look, I don't know if I feel the same way. If you told me Gabriel Peck was coming to play for LAFC tomorrow, I'm taking 10 Gabriel Pecks. I don't care who he when they played for him. But Mark Delgado as a midfielder maybe doesn't really engender that same feeling as Gabriel Peck. And then I think the young guys that we've brought over that you see on your depth chart right there, Odin Thiago Holm, Igor Jesus. There's a little bit of a rumor right now about Artem Smolyakov, who is a Ukrainian defender that we may be bringing in as well. These three guys are all under 22. They're young. They're talented. It's going to be an interesting season to see how, as you mentioned, it's, I don't know if it's a rebuild, right? But it's definitely a reload for us. And it'll be interesting to see how all these pieces fit.
Absolutely. I think that usually lends to like a slow start to the season. You got a lot of chemistry that's got to be built between these guys. And, Olivier Giroud being the top one on top of the formation there. Let's start goaltender Hugo Lloris. Is there anything left to say?
Yeah, no, I think the only thing we're talking about is it'll be Thomas Asal or David Ochoa as a backup, both, younger kind of heralded goalies in their national teams. But it's Hugo, and everybody else behind him just needs to wait their turn to let him to give them a chance to play.
Now, here is where there was some, I don't want to say confusion. There was some interesting thoughts of talking about the center backs. Now, we have Aaron Long, Maxime Chenot, Eddie Segura, Tafari, Chenot, did I say him again? You got a lot of guys, and the prevailing thought amongst people on Twitter, now that's a very specific portion of fan, let's say that right now, was that I'm an idiot, and that's number one. And then number two was that there might be a 3-man center back pairing as one of the favored formations, maybe like a 3-5-1-2, something like that. How do you feel about that? I mean, if Oliveira's out, then I guess Bouanga and Giroud up top might make a fun little pairing. How do you feel about the back line, how they're going to line up?
Yeah, that's going to be the most interesting part. What we wound up doing with Kike Oliveira at the end of the season was kind of moving him to that wing-back role where there now were, essentially 3 in the back and 5 in the midfield, and playing Sergi Palencia or Omar Campos or Ryan Hollingshead or Kike Oliveira up really high up, really pressing up on the one side, kind of letting the other wing back trail back a little bit. I think that we will play 3 center backs in the back line. I really do. And I think it'll be Tafari, Long, and, that third one will be interesting. It could be a player like Sergi Palencia and Ryan Hollingshead slotting into a center back role, even though we have all those center backs right now that you mentioned. I think Maxime Chenot played incredibly well for us last season. And if he becomes that third one, he gives you a little bit less of an offensive option. Whereas if it's Ryan Hollingshead or Sergi Palencia playing in that third center back role, even though neither of them are true center backs, they give you a little bit more of an offensive option from that role. Kind of like what we saw from, I believe, Amundsen from Columbus Crew over the last couple of years. He's been a relatively offensive type of center back. And then in the midfield, if we have 3 in the midfield, 5 in the midfield, how we use them is going to be really interesting because, like you said, we have these two young guys between Odin Thiago Holm and Igor Jesus who have never played in MLS before, going to be, having to get used to an entirely new system, entirely new country. I think it may be a little less of an uphill climb for a player like Holm, who has played with Celtic for the last couple of years. And I think that, their whole system kind of lends itself to a lot of players coming in and out. Igor Jesus might be a little more difficult. I think we're going to see a lot more of Mark Delgado and Timothy Tillman earlier on because they are MLS veterans now. They give you a little bit more of a kind of set it and forget it. You know what you're going to get from them. And then up top, if it's going to be Giroud in the middle, I think it's got to be Denis Bouanga and David Martinez on the outside. I absolutely love the young kid, David Martinez. He is a player who 18 years old last season and in less than 400 minutes had 5 goal contributions for us and is going to be a player who we are going to lean on heavily over the course of our MLS regular season, plus all the different tournaments. I mean, last year we played in 50 matches, and I think we barely scratched the surface with what David Martinez can bring us.
Love what you said there. Now, when I was making this depth chart, originally I had Hollingshead and Palencia out on the right back position, and that's where it turns out that I was an idiot because I just arbitrarily threw them 1 and 2 and had Hollingshead first, Palencia second, and everyone said, no, Palencia's the starting right back. He's got to be there. You got to. Okay, well, Hollingshead's going to start, so they move out left. And then as the week went on, Yo-Yo Boa, oh, well, he's a left back too.
Right.
Artem, the Ukrainian, wait, he's a left back too. So I'm having problems trying to fit all these guys into all the different spots. What are the best wing back pairing that you would throw out there?
I mean, here's the thing, right?
In a 4-man back line.
The question I'll just ask you is, who are we playing? What tournament is it, right? Like, that's the luxury that it seems like LAFC has this year. I would say personally, because in my opinion, our best defender last year and best player not named Matty Bogusz or Denis Bouanga was Sergi Palencia. Sergi Palencia was, in my opinion, should have had more votes for Defender of the Year in Major League Soccer. I really think he was that good in that many different ways. So I think I'd be shocked if Sergi is not one of the starters from minute one. Ryan Hollingshead, we didn't get quite as much from him on the offensive end that we would have wanted last season, but he is a very, very good wing defender. I have to be honest, though, if we're looking for dynamism, if we're looking for offensive production, if we're looking for players who have a little bit more of an X factor, Ryan Hollingshead will tell you that the man who streaked behind him in the 2023 MLS Cup final to score their second goal, Yo-Yo Boa, might have to be that guy who starts on the opposite side of Sergi Palencia.
I like that a lot. It looks like you guys have a lot of depth in that position. And, Hollingshead is one of those guys, like you said, center back. I'm okay him playing there. If you told me he's playing at midfield, I'm okay him playing there. If you told me he's playing in offense, I'm okay with him playing there. He just kind of one of those guys who just does everything well. He's a good, fundamentally sound player anywhere you put him, and it doesn't really matter much. Moving up top,
by the way, real quick, he's a goal or two away from passing Graham Zusi and becoming the highest scoring defender in Major League Soccer history. That's something that we're hoping happens this year.
I feel like that's so arbitrary, though. Like, as time goes by, I see these players listed, and, one time you'll have Bouanga as a midfielder in a formation, then he's a forward the next week. Moving up a step, you guys generally run 2 8s and a 6. Igor Jesus, what I've been reading is he's kind of like the destroyer type 6. He's just going to go in there and blow up games. So I believe that'll be his position without much to say about it one way or another. Are you on board with that?
Yeah, handing those kind of keys to a 21-year-old who's never played in Major League Soccer before, and not that Major League Soccer is a be-all, end-all league, but it's an interesting thing to do, to going from Ilie Sanchez, who I don't know if you could have a more experienced 6 in all of Major League Soccer, to a 21-year-old. It's interesting. I don't love the idea of it on the surface, but I've also seen Igor Jesus play never. So it's going to be really interesting to see what we get from him. I'm all for it. Why not? But man, is that a departure from what we did last year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think you could get an older player in that position, just biologically.
The midfield is kind of my thought. like, I guess one of my concerns about this team is bringing in new players. Look, I love Timmy Tillman. I love Mark Delgado too. I think you guys will begrudgingly end up liking him, but I do worry a bit about that dynamic, bringing in new players, having to rely on new, some new faces, build that chemistry. Look, the midfield has been an important part to this team and has been a driver of past success.
Yeah.
Do you think this group has it in them to do that, or do you think this is like a yes, but not this year?
I think it's going to be a work in progress all season, if I'm being honest. I think that the reason why you bring in a Mark Delgado is because you know exactly what you're going to get from Mark Delgado. I mean, the guy's almost played 400 matches in an MLS shirt. So you know what you're going to get from Mark Delgado, and that's a solid 8, as far as I'm concerned. And Timothy Tillman needs to take the next step this year. He's been a player that's been on the radar. He's been getting some looks in U.S. men's national team camp. And I don't think it's just because his last name is Tillman and his brother is very, 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 very good. I think that he's kind of earned his spot. But I really do think that if you can flank Igor Jesus with Delgado and Tillman and kind of give him that experience on either side to allow them to help bring him along, then I think that you're dealing with a pretty strong midfield to start. It's not the Edward Atuesta, Matty Bogusz, Ilie Sanchez, Lewis O'Brien kind of juggernaut that I feel like we thought we had, but it never really came to fruition, but we thought we had last season. It's certainly not the midfield that the team 13 miles down the road is going to be bringing, even though they lost Mark Delgado and there's some questions on, I think Gaston Brugman might have gone, I don't know. But
Brugman's out, Puig is out.
Yeah. So, I mean, but that midfield last year, that was why they were so good, right? With all due respect to Gabriel Peck and Paintsel and Joveljic.
The midfield is the engine room.
And when they brought in Royce, it was it drove that team even further. I mean, they were a very, very good midfield. So could it be that we put Odin Thiago Holm and Igor Jesus out there, and they're just running gangbusters all over, and we're a fast, exciting team? Absolutely. But I think that is where we have the most questions, at least starting the season.
When we go out now, I have like kind of the traditional 4-3-3 defensive going on here. We're not sure that there's going to be 3 men up top. And if Oliveira is not here, that does leave a little bit of a hole. Now, you said you want David Martinez to step up there. That could be a possibility. Another possibility could be to go with a 2-striker formation. One of those could be Bouanga. I think pairing Giroud with someone with a little bit of legs might be, a prudent move. How do you see the offense lining up this year?
Yeah, so here's the hard part, right? What we did last year is we played 2 different styles. We played the style with a true middle goal scorer, right? A true 9 in Olivier Giroud or Kai Kamara. And with Kai Kamara, it was different. Kai Kamara had the legs. Kai Kamara ran with Denis Bouanga, Matty Bogusz, Kiki Oliveira, David Martinez, Sergi Palencia, whoever it was. Kai could run with them. Olivier Giroud showed a penchant for staying offside rather than onside. And when we started to become a little more pacey, it didn't work as well with Olivier Giroud there in the middle as a true 9. And so I think if we're going to have 3 in the middle, and it's David Martinez on one side, Denis Bouanga on the other, that bodes a little better for the style of play that I think Olivier Giroud likes. But what I would love to see is letting Denis Bouanga and Olivier Giroud work it out up top and have these young, pacey midfielders making these overlapping runs, these crossing runs, these passes into the box. We need to get a little bit more adventurous, a little bit more risky with some of our passes through the midfield. I thought we were a little too point A to point B with our offense last year. And most of it we knew, all right, they're going to try to cross the ball into Olivier Giroud, which has never really been our thing. That's never who we are. We attack from the wings, but we attack from the outside in. And I think that really needs to be our identity moving forward. If it's just Bouanga and Giroud, I'd love to see them work it out. They have an entire offseason, preseason to be able to figure that out. But it's going to be interesting.
Now, that's really insightful. And I'm glad you brought that up. because as we're talking about this, I'm just thinking about Olivier Giroud starting for France in the World Cup, winning a World Cup with France, and not scoring a single goal in that tournament. There is an argument to be made that his strength is not going to be, and has never been, being the guy that scores you goals every game and leads the league in scoring goals, but it's that link up player who brings a lot of other sort of contributions. And yeah, like if you can get the wingers, Bouanga is obviously capable of carrying a goal scoring load, but if Martinez can carry some of that load, if your midfielders can overlap and be adventurous, and Olivier Giroud can play deeper, solving the offsides problem that you've mentioned a couple times, that brings a very different dynamic. Because a couple of times I watched LAFC at the end of the season, and the game plan was kind of point A to point B to Denny Bouanga, and well, he'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I look, here's the other frustrating part is 2 years ago in Serie A, Olivier Giroud had 15 goals, 8 assists, right? Serie A, not it's Serie A. I mean, he's still one of the leading scorers in that league.
Very good defensive league too.
Right. Mm-hmm. So for me, I just thought it would translate to at least a little bit more, right? Like that would be a big thing.
Sure.
That leads to our first question. This is some 2025 storylines to watch. They are posed as questions, but they're not necessarily questions we're going to answer here today. First one is, can Olivier Giroud step up and produce? My thought is absolutely yes. I think Giroud can put last year behind, and with a full season in a new place, again, USA is a very hard place to play. Maybe have a full off season under his legs. I think that he can step up this year and be the DP attacker for this team. I think he can be a 15-goal, 5-assist guy this year. Do you think that right now is within his capabilities?
He's capable. Absolutely. I mean, we're talking about one of the best nines in the world over the last 10, 15 years, right? A player who's done it not just for his club teams, but for a team France that won the World Cup in 18, made another final in 22. I absolutely believe that he's capable of doing it. I think the unfortunate part is last year, what everybody was talking about is, but he's not getting perfect service. He's not getting perfect service. This is Major League Soccer. Kai Kamara scored 140 some odd goals by not getting perfect service, right? So for me, he's got to become less beholden to, I need the ball in a particular spot, and he's got to go get it a la Kai Kamara last season and his entire career for us. But I really do think that he can step up and be a 15-5, 15-7 guy for us. He also has to do that for us.
What are the chances, if you had to is it a 50-50 shot? What do you think the chances that he steps up? We'll take a step back from that. Let's say 12-3.
Well, I mean, look, 12-3 is not DP numbers. I'm sorry. If we're calling Olivier Giroud a designated player for LAFC, then I'm not happy with 12-3. 15-5, sure. That's when we start to talk about things. I will say 50-50. I'm 50-50 on Olivier Giroud stepping up and scoring 15 goals for us.
How much is it on Cherundolo to game plan around Olivier Giroud to put him in the right positions?
So here's the thing, though. The players who we've brought in around him aren't those type of players, or at least definitely weren't last year. And if we're trying to do that more this year, we haven't been signing like it. We've signed Nkosi Tafari, who is a aerial beast in the box and will score headers on set piece situations, which, by the way, was a lot of what we were expecting Olivier Giroud to do as well. We've signed Yaya Boa, who's super pacey. We've signed Odin Holm, who's super pacey. We've signed Igor Jesus, who's young. And I keep wondering why we, at least for how we tried to use him last year, are going to keep trying to force this offensive style with Olivier Giroud in the middle and having to cross into him as often as we do. He's not Christian Benteke. He's not an aerial master the way that some of these other players are. It's on Dolo, but I also think that if Giroud looks around and sees some of these players around him, he needs to kind of adapt a little bit to that style as well. Although, I mean, look what Giroud has done for the last 10 years. Maybe he's not a player who adapts. I don't know.
I think with some of these defensive coaches, Tronello, Neville, Berhalter, guys like this, I don't think that it's up to him to set the game plan and stuff like that. But I would blame Trundle more if the defense was letting 65 goals in a season. Like if you give Trundle a player like Olivier Giroud, and then you're like, oh, you need to teach him how to score goals. I don't think that that's exactly the recipe for success here. About teaching how to score goals. Let's talk about the next question here. And this is another one where I get hit into it with LAFC fans quite a bit. I think Abobasi is an average at best Major League Soccer striker. He's had quite a downfall in his career. The trajectory is not good, and I put that on him personally. I don't think he has the juice anymore. What role does Abobasi play, and are LAFC faithful crazy for telling me that before mid-season he's going to overtake the striker position and the Giroud is going to be out of here?
I mean, look, I think that has a little bit more to do with what we've seen from Olivier Giroud than maybe it does from Jeremy Abobasi. I don't know that his downfall has been as precipitous as has been talked about. 17 goals in 2022, 10 goals, 4 assists the following year. All I will say is you try playing in San Jose and staying motivated for an entire 34-game Major League Soccer season. I don't know. With all the turmoil that they've had how many ever different coaches? They've had, you see Cade Cowell walk out the door. You see a lot of the younger, more talented guys walk out the door, and you're the one still holding the bag. I think that what we're hoping with Jeremy Abobasi isn't just that he'll revert back to some of the form that we saw in 2022 and parts of 2023, but that being in Los Angeles, playing at BMO Stadium in front of 3252, having the opportunity to play in CONCACAF Champions Cup games, having more of a robust schedule out in front of you other than 34 games, 17 of which are at PayPal Park. I really do believe that it could be the scenery change that he needs. And I think he's still capable of 10 or 12 goals in a season, especially if we can get the offense humming.
I do not share that optimism about Jeremy Abobasi, but we will see. It's just I've been down that train. I've rooted for that. I remember when he was like the head striker for the U.S. men's national team. I mean that feels like a lifetime ago. I know he's only going to be 27 years old this year. It feels to me like something's done. I know he's had some injury issues, concussions, stuff like that. He wears the neck band with the is that like magnetic or something like that?
Yeah.
I can drink half of that Kool-Aid. I think that there's some savviness and some stuff in there that kind of stuff doesn't go away. There's some inherent ability to score that some guys have and some guys don't have, and he had it. I can drink the Kool-Aid too of like, hey, stay motivated in San Diego, and if you can score 10 goals on a team that is that dysfunctional, that maybe still says something about what you can do. There is a point too where it's like, is he the guy that takes you to the promised land?
Yeah, and I don't think he'll be asked to be that guy, right? I think he'll be asked to be a guy to keep us nudged in the right direction, right? He'll be asked to, hey, you know what? We've trotted out Denis Bouanga 90 minutes a match on Saturday and on Wednesday, and we have another match on Saturday. Maybe Denis plays 75 minutes and Jeremy comes in and does some things. Or maybe Jeremy starts and Denis comes in a little bit later. Maybe David Martinez doesn't give us what we hope and we think will give us, so we can put Abobasi on the opposite wing and we have at least a solution that is a little bit more proven than a David Martinez. So I don't think he's being looked at as, this world beater of a striker. I think he is, for LAFC, he might even be a luxury depth piece for us, right? And who knows if he can stay motivated with that if he's not on the pitch. I don't know. But I don't think he'll be asked to do more than 6 to 10 goals this season. Anything more than we get from that will be great. Maybe 5 assists, just keeping him motivated.
I just think the danger there, sorry, Bob, I know you're trying to move on. I just think the danger there is like Bouanga is the guy who carries the scoring load. But then if he can't do it, right, it's that thing. I don't want to use your neighbors across the town as an example, but just, if guy A can't do it, there's got to be a B guy
Right.
where you're like, that guy can do it. And, Giroud gave you a year of not being a guy to do it. Ebobisse, I think, comes in, and Ebobisse, I think, kind of has to be that guy. He's in the position, and I don't see somebody else. Martinez, maybe, but without Christian Oliveira, who is the B guy who's definitely going to score you a goal if Bouanga can't do it?
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Last year, we had Matty Bogusz, who across all competitions, 31 goal contributions, 20 goals, 11 assists, right? So Denis not only didn't feel like he had to do it all himself, Denis had more assists than he has ever had in a season because he trusted the other guys around him, the Kike Oliveiras and the Matty Bogushes, and at times David Martinez, Kai Kamara. He trusted all of those guys around him. The key thing will be Denis Bouanga building trust with those other guys because it can't be hero ball, right? It can't be Denis Bouanga trying to score 30 goals this season after, scoring 23 in MLS 2 years ago and then 20 this last season. Obviously, if I'm defending LAFC, I'm saying, all right, stop 99 and let everybody else beat you. That's the key.
Last question here. Do you guys have room to bring anyone else in? Is there any rumors? Are you guys linked to anyone else? I know we still have a month before the season kickoff. It just seems like the roster is just a little unfinished yet for me.
Yeah, so we talked about a little bit about Artem Smolyakov, who is rumored to be coming in at left back, Ukrainian kid, under 21 or under 22 signing that it looks like he'll be. Not sure if you guys have heard of Antoine Griezmann, but what we're hoping to do, look, here's the thing, right? He's not coming until the summer window, if he's coming at all. And I think that maybe we're putting a lot of our eggs into that basket, right? Maybe we're trying to stay second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, not to say that we couldn't be first in the table. I think that it's wide open in the West with the Ricky Pooch injury and with Seattle kind of having to rebuild just a little bit with some of these other clubs. Obviously Real Salt Lake losing Chicho Arango. I mean, it's been a really San Jose all of a sudden has a formidable squad up top with all these guys. I think it's wide open. So I think that if we can stay first, second, third, fourth, and all of a sudden at the transfer window, JT starts cooking and we bring in Griezmann plus, because we do have an open DP spot, right? We bring in Griezmann plus. Now, all of a sudden, you're looking at a club that, while we're going to have to kind of reinvent ourselves again in July and August, if you're telling me that that's what's happening this season, I'll sign up for it. Absolutely.
Love it. I'm just kind of thinking about that, like with Giroud and Griezmann, and what do Bouanga as like a 10, I'm trying to see how we could cook that up.
I think Griezmann would play the 10. He plays that. He plays that more withdrawn role, and he did that for Atletico for years.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's a good problem to have. We'll figure it out.
Very anti-Trundle of playing with
I mean, the interesting part is I thought Olivier Giroud was very anti-Trundle, right? So I think that we're asking Steve, JT, Neil McGuinness, our new sporting director there, we're asking a little bit differently of our players than we maybe had. With Bob Bradley, it was a 4-3-3 or die, and you knew what you were going to get. And with Steve Trundle, we've been able to switch formations. We've been able to have players really be very versatile, play multiple positions, not just over the course of a season, but over the course of 90 minutes. So I think that that's something that will be asked of all of these players, including a player like Antoine Griezmann if he comes over.
I almost would prefer you guys to switch and trade Giroud over to the Galaxy. Can you imagine with a service from Paintsel and Peck, okay guys, we don't know what to do. Just fling a ball in the middle, see what we can get out of them. Send Royce back in return and kind of do one of those. I don't know.
That was Zlatan for when they had him, right? That was cool.
Let's talk about the outcomes for next season. What is a realistic outcome? What's the best possible outcome? And what's the worst possible outcome for this team? For me,
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, for me, top 4 should be the goal. Any less than that's a disappointment. I would say that the 6th spot is probably the lowest I could see Galaxy going, because we've talked about how this team is going to score, how this team's going to score, how this team's going to score.
Yeah,
they were very solid up the middle, and they have the X factor in goals. So I don't think that not scoring enough is going to be that much of an issue. Even if it comes up, you can still be a league average team at best. I'd see minimum 6, maximum like that 2 to 3 range right now.
So Bob, this is LAFC that we're talking about, not Galaxy. Just want to remind you of that once again.
Sure.
You may have accidentally said Galaxy there. But no, I think, look, if you ask anybody around LAFC right now, it's winning the West is the goal, right? Winning the West is the goal every single year, and then putting yourself in a position. I shouldn't say winning the West, placing first in the table in the West, right? Because that's what we did last year, and then Carson went on to win the West. But either way, a realistic outcome this year, come on. With the talent that we have even right now, if we are not a playoff team, if we are not hosting a playoff game, I think that it's disappointing just from the jump. So I think the realistic outcome is that. Where I think we will actually land at the end of 34 games has a lot to do with the July transfer window, more so than it has to do with the roster that you currently see right now on January 24th. I think that we are young and we are full of potential with who we brought in. I think that over the course of that transfer window, if we can bring in a DP caliber striker, the likes of an Antoine Griezmann, or, other names that have been thrown out there, like a James Rodriguez, or, Karim Benzema was somebody that was thrown out for a little bit. There are all kinds of pie in the sky names out there too.
If you're French and scored 100 goals,
hey,
you're on our radar.
Let's go. Bring them on over. Let's do it. No, I think though that LAFC is aspirational in those ways, right? We aren't Sporting Kansas City or a Real Salt Lake or someone like that who tends to be aspirational to win Major League Soccer. We are aspirational in those ways that we're looking to win Major League Soccer, but we're also looking to win any of these other larger tournaments that we are in, while also signing 19, 20, 21-year-old developing players that we can go sell then for lots and lots of money. I just don't see many other clubs operating in all three phases the way that LAFC is looking to operate. So I think it's always very, very different, but I really do think realistically we should be able to place top 4 with the talent we have around us.
I think realistically, with the talent on the team, with the resources available to the team, yes, this season should end in a top 4 finish. And then the playoffs, we were talking to, Mark Fishkin and of the New York Red Bulls the other day, and he was like, look, the playoffs are the playoffs. Anything could happen. We saw that last year. So It won't go there. The best thing you can do is finish the season hot and give yourself a good chance to go in with momentum.
I always said the Supporters Shield is a huge trophy, not because it means anything. It means that you have every game at home from now on through the course of the playoff. That's really the eye on the prize there. Any final thoughts?
Just one thing. I think, sorry, and then Scarf, I'll let you wrap this out. I just want to say, I think that this team is going to be really dependent on the summer window, like you mentioned earlier. I don't think you have to win anything in the first half of the season. You just have to be competitive. I think really realistically, we could see a team that once again is like, you got some pieces, but you're not quite there. And that summer window, whoever comes in has to bang. I think that you cannot have another Olivier Giroud who comes in the summer and doesn't land immediately. If Griezmann comes in and doesn't gel, right, you're going to go in to the playoffs cold, and the season will feel like a failure. But like, this team has a high top end if that summer transfer window is right.
Look, I couldn't agree more. Last season, or 2 seasons ago, we played 53 matches, the most of any MLS club in the league history. And we followed that up last season by playing 50. And I think what we are learning on the fly, being the first team ever in Major League Soccer to do that, is that you need to have some sort of a combination of MLS guys, right? The Marky Delgados, the Jeremy Abobasis, the Nkosi Tafarais, the Yaya Boas, who will get you through those rough patches, get you through those, 9 games in a months where you guys have no rest and you're playing in 3 different tournaments and you're having to draw from your 22 through 28 on the roster. What we're learning how to do is to manage those type of things with the antiquated, awful salary restrictions and roster restrictions that Major League Soccer has. that's what we're trying to do on the fly, right? So I totally agree. First couple of months, we may be seeing a lot more Marky Delgado, a lot more Jeremy Abobasi, a lot more of some of these other players than we might see later on once these 20, 21, 22, 23-year-old kids start to develop, and then we can put them in certain places. But you're absolutely right. To me, it's the July transfer window that will be transformative or debilitating for this club.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us here as we preview each of the 30 Major League Soccer clubs. Very informative. Thank you again. Let us know, JR, again, I learned his name today, Scarf. Let us know where we can find your work.
Yeah, at Defenders of the Banc. That's Bank with a C. On Twitter, it's Defend the Bank, but everywhere else, Defenders of the Bank. We are, 340 episodes into our now 8-year-old podcast. We've been there, season ticket holder, season member since day one. And really lucky to be part of a really supportive, robust LAFC podcast community. So check us out at Defenders of the Bank, Bank with a C.
So I like your shirt, LA Strong. Anywhere we could tell everyone to donate or send some love?
Here's what I will say. If you go to LAFC.com, there is a laundry list of different organizations, different places you can donate, all kinds of other stuff. This is obviously merely the Fanatic shirt that they sold so that people could donate money. But I will say, go to LAFC.com. There is a treasure trove of places that you can donate resources, because it's not, just one community. These are 3 or 4 huge communities in Los Angeles that have been absolutely devastated by these wildfires. We're hoping to get some rain this weekend, which will really help to kind of quell things a little bit. But yeah, head on over to LAFC.com. There's a huge list. If you want to support, obviously the community would love it.
Awesome. Stay safe, and everyone out there in LA, our thoughts are with you in this time. But we got soccer right around the corner, and we do have to move on with things. So, reach out to someone if you need help, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Yes, sir.